I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this, so I decided to give it a try. I bought this from Michael's when they were having a buy one get one free offer last week. So I don't know exactly how it works, so we're gonna find out. Okay, so the instructions say to melt using hot water, make only enough to make one mold at a time, place beads in a cup of hot water, and wait for about 5 seconds for them to start softening and become sticky. With a pair of tweezers, stir the beads together, they will form a clump. Once the clump is formed, use tweezers to remove it and dry it gently on a paper towel. Okay, and then from there, we just put it into a cup and then make it form the shape. Okay, so I have the little silicone beads. I have my silicone mat that I only use for resin. Never use something that you use for a resin to then work with food. And I have this little metal stirrer thing. I have no idea what this actually used to belong to, but this is what I use it for now. So I am going to try this out. Okay, I have my hot water. I just made the water in my tea kettle. And I poured in about enough to fill this cap. I don't know how much it's gonna take, but I'm trying this out, so I'm just gonna dump it in. And wait a minute. And then we'll stir it a bit. Okay. Said about 5 seconds. I mean, it's definitely been more than 5 seconds. Oh, okay. So they are kind of clumping together. This thing got really hot, so I'm going to use a baking mitt. And then I guess I'm just gonna try to like scoop it out best I can. Wish I had a plastic spoon to do this with. So this absolutely is not working. There is another suggested way, which is by using a heat gun. Okay, so I did finally get it to melt using my heat gun, my cobalt heat gun. It turned into a super goopy mess that I really hope comes off of my table once it dries. I forgot my spider in the other room. This is my garage. And so I used this little pendant instead. It's still pretty warm, so I'm just gonna let it calm down. It was extremely sticky and very hard to work with. It kind of almost reminded me of hot glue before it, before it really sets up. Super sticky, a little bit stringy, and it picked up so much gunk. But I mean, that's my fault. I was just doing it in my garage because I didn't want to bring the heat gun into the house. But we'll see how this goes. Okay, so it's cooled quite a bit. It's firming up pretty well. And it seems like it's pulling away, like I can pull the charm out now. So I'm gonna pull this out and see how this mold looks. So taking it out, looks like my charm is no worse for the wear. There's a little bit of residue on the side, but I can just clean that off. So you can see it did take in quite a lot of detail. Let me see if I can peel this off. Maybe I'll give it a little bit more time. But now I'm gonna try it with my UV resin and see what happens. So this was made by Blue Moon Studio, and it does say that it is for UV resin. Normally I wouldn't use UV resin to cast something. I normally just use it for like making shallow jewelry. But I think this is small enough that it should work. So I'm gonna mix up some UV resin, pour it in, and we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. Okay, so I poured in some resin, some UV resin, and I am now shining my UV light on it. Should only take about 2 minutes or so to cure. I might give it an extra minute just because it's a little deeper than what I normally pour into. Okay, so I did manage to get this off my table, and I demolded my piece. It was actually very easy to pull out. The shape of it is, I mean, it picked up great detail. There were some spots in it where obviously the mold itself wasn't great. Like down here, the beak, like the way the beak is, it got kind of like chipped off. But honestly, I think that's my fault because I just like hastily did it. I actually really like how this looks, and I'm going to try to make a better one. What I like about this, well, first let me tell you what I don't like. When I pulled it off, it clearly, like, not all of it stayed solid. And I think it only didn't bleed out because it was stuck to my table. It's a little bit weird, but what I do like about this is that it can be remelted or reheated to create different molds over and over again. It does get kind of dirty. It picks up everything. And again, that's really my fault because I did it in the garage when I should have done it, you know, on this mat. The water technique, I had my kettle set at 212 and I left it in for the, you know, designated amount of time. It never melted enough to really do anything. So I used my heat gun on it, and that definitely did the trick. I think next time I'm going to try, I think more more of the silicone stuff for something this big. And instead of pressing the item into it, I'm going to put the item down and then press this on top of it. That way I can control how deep it goes because, like, obviously this pushed all the way down to the bottom and, you know, left some holes in the bottom. And that wasn't great. Like, I don't think I could really reuse this unless I put some tape on it or something. But I am impressed with how well it picked up the detail. I know it's kind of hard to tell, and maybe I'll put some pigment or mica on it to bring out the details, but I really like how well it took the detail. I think that's pretty cool. And I think the shallow, the more shallow emblems and charms would do a much better job. So yeah, I mean, it's not the best mold maker, but if you're just wanting something, like if you're just getting started with making your own molds and you want something quick and easy, this is not bad, and it's not super expensive, especially if you can find a buy one get one deal at your local hobby store. So yeah, Blue Moon Resin Craft from Blue Moon Studio. Not too bad. Try it out. Let me know what you think.